Hello, welcome to the Legacy series where we look at the lineage of some of Starfleet's most iconic vessels, starting with the real-world inspiration and moving into the primary and secondary lore of the Trek universe. I'm Rick, and this time we're looking into the namesakes of the Intrepid. Back in 1798 there was a USS Intrepid which was built for Napoleon's Egyptian expedition and originally called the Mosquito, but was captured by the American Navy in 1803 by the USS Enterprise. Unfortunately, it was probably best known for being loaded up with explosives and detonating prematurely before it could reach its target. This was followed up by the USS Intrepid of 1874, a torpedo ram vessel. It was the US steam-powered ship and carried the world's first self-propelled torpedoes. This was built in answer to the British's own torpedo ram design that was planned in 1872, but the Intrepid was completed first and captained by Commander Augustus Cook. She didn't see much action, being a prototype, and was decommissioned in 1876. In 1882 she was to be refit into a gunboat, but that never came to pass and she spent the remainder of her days in dock. In 1904 there was a ship stationed at San Francisco until 1912. It was decommissioned in 1914, then recommissioned from 1915 to 1921. It again returned to service of a sort during World War II as a sludge removal barge. Then we have the USS Intrepid CV-11, an Essex-class aircraft carrier commissioned in 1943. It was overhauled several times to serve various purposes and received a lot of damage in combat. In 1962 it acted as the recovery ship for the NASA Project Mercury, retrieving astronaut Scott Carpenter in 1974. It was decommissioned and preserved as a museum ship in Philadelphia. There was also a long line of HMS Intrepids, but the most recent was in 1967, a Fearless-class landing platform dock that was refit in 1985 for further service and training missions. The vessel was dismantled in 2008. The first of Starfleet's Intrepid vessels was the prototype for the Intrepid class of the mid-22nd century. The SS Intrepid existed in a time before the United Federation of Planets and was one of Starfleet's first widespread vessels. Formed of a half-disc shape and a compact design, it was the precursor to the NX class. Launched prior to 2153 under the command of Captain Carlos Ramirez, the Intrepid went on to serve during the Earth-Romulan War and changed captains to Bryce Schumer, where it served several missions alongside the Enterprise NX-01. Around 2160, the vessel was relieved from service, as many ships of this time were, to make way for the influx of new designs from the formation of the Federation. The NX-07 was constructed after the initial 4 pre-UFP NX-class starships, and named the USS Intrepid. This vessel vanished in 2161 in, what was at the time, deep space. Its final transmission to Starfleet was from Captain Lambert, who suspected a Romulan minefield, but on investigation no wreckage was found. This vessel had in fact been jumped forwards 200 years, due to being accelerated well beyond Warp 9. This, coupled with an inertial dampener failure, splattered the crew. It was destroyed in 2383 by the USS Challenger. In 2248, the USS Intrepid NCC-1708 was a Constitution class commissioned and built by the Vulcans, and crewed by a primarily Vulcan crew, just as the Enterprise NCC-1701 was a predominantly human crew. It operated at the behest of the Vulcan Science Academy, being reassigned the Registry NCC-1631. As befitting a Constitution class, the vessel undertook several first contact missions and deep space explorations under Captain's attack. In 2268, the Intrepid encountered a space amoeba that siphoned off all energy from its crew and components. The ship was lost. A new Constitution class was being built in 2269, around a major refit period, and it was to be christened the USS Intrepid NCC-1730. As with its prior namesake, it was assigned to operate from Vulcan, this time staying closer to home. In 2294 there was an Oberth class USS Intrepid, though technically this was christened the Intrepid II, so perhaps the original and the Constitution vessel were still in service at the same time. By the turn of the century, the Excelsior class USS Intrepid NCC-38907 was under the command of Captain Drew Dagan, and it responded to the Kittimer massacre of 2346 when the Romulans attacked the planet. It evacuated survivors, including the child, Worf. Chief Petty Officer Sergei Rozhenko was serving on this vessel at this time also. In 2369, a new project was underway to develop a faster deep space vessel that incorporated the new bioneural circuitry for faster processing speeds and the latest in sensor technology. After 2370, it also took into account the newly discovered subspace damage that prolonged warp travel could inflict. As with the first Intrepid of the 2150s, the prototype was named the USS Intrepid, NCC-74656. Soon 3 more vessels of this ilk were constructed, the USS Bellerophon, the USS Pathfinder, and the USS Voyager. In 2379, the Starship was assigned to the Sector 1045 task group to intercept a potential Reman invasion. In Star Trek Online, this USS Intrepid eventually was presumed destroyed in 2409 and replaced with the USS Intrepid NCC-74600-A, the first of its namesake to support a Legacy registry. So, that is a list of the vessels named Intrepid. There are doubtless more out there not mentioned here, but again, as with prior vessels, we see a similarity in the fiction with the reality. Trek produced 2 entire lines of ship named after their prototypes, the Intrepid, in much the same way as the 1874 torpedo ram. These were all early prototypes, though arguably Trek's iterations met with greater success. Trek goes on to continue to revitalise the name and apply it to ships throughout the eras, with it harkening back to its own in-universe legacy. Thanks for watching this dive into the lineage of the Intrepid name, and do be sure to let me know if you can think of any other starships you want to see the history of. Until then, my Intrepid viewers, I've been Rick and I'll see you next time. Thanks again, and goodbye.